Hey everybody, it's Nathaniel Avila here with Sahara Ale. Hello.
Hello.
And it's just going to be us two today. We're going to be handling the fort, holding down the fort. Is that right?
Yep.
All right.
Five.
Huh?
Isn't it five characters?
5 characters. So we're going to do like a little
Yep.
bit of a short one, so it's going to be a short one today. So we're going to be looking at this script that I found on Reddit. And let me start sharing my screen. There it is. Okay, can you see it?
Yep.
It's called The Signal by no last name given. And I guess it's a teleplay because it has acts on it. And this guy, this is what he says on his Reddit post. He says, "Tear me apart, please. I'm the best writer ever. You are all beaches. Prove me wrong." So,
Okay.
so this guy's
That we will then.
that guy he's full of himself. Let's see if he can walk the walk as well as talk the talk. All right,
Why
so
shouldn't be the best script we've ever read?
oh geez, then I'll be like eating my words for dinner.
Well,
All right.
okay.
Okay, so Act 1, exterior, dive bar, night. Patrons meander out of the bar at closing time. Dive bar, continuous. The bartender takes down the first half of a banner that announces happy birthday for fraternal twin brothers, Max and John, who are celebrating their 35th. The 35th what? I don't know. So both brothers are of good luck, a good stock, but John is mentally handicapped. Max is his reluctant caretaker. Frank is Max's lifelong friend, inebriated and hanging off the end of the bar. Montage of Max and Frank putting down many rounds together as John swats intermittently at a pinata all night. Sarah, Max's wife, comes into the bar and up to Max.
You want to ride now? I don't want to come back later when you're all wasted. So, it's now or you're on your own, babe.
I'm good. Sarah raises an eyebrow.
You sure?
Max grunts without looking at her.
Okay.
Sarah leaves and Frank turns to Max, shaking his head. Man, you've got it lucky, my friend. Max leans into the bar and plays with a full shot glass. He notices his high school baseball ring on his shot drinking hand. What? POV, Max plays with his high school baseball ring a bit. So, oh yeah, I'm overflowing with luck. I've got a decent job, a loving wife, blah 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 blah. You know what I mean. Yeah, I know what you mean. I could have been swinging at fastballs in the majors, but instead I get to watch my genius brother swing and miss an empty pinata forever. Frank looks over to John at the end of the bar, swinging at a pinata, missing it again and again. Man, he's been all that at that all night. Max is indifferent and doesn't even turn to see John. Keeps him busy. There isn't any candy in it, but he'll never know. Wait, what? Wait, who's talking? Max? Oh, Max is talking, okay. So, Frank shakes his head. Beth walks into the bar. Beth is a 30-something brunette bombshell. Every guy in his dinky town wishes they could just talk to her. Max is no different. Your sister's here. Frank turns around to see Beth, then turns back to Max. Dude, do me a favor and don't hit on her when she comes over here. Why not? Because she doesn't like you, and it irritates her, and then I have to deal with that, and you're married, and. Max's eyes roll, and he makes a gagging face. Ugh, I know. Beth is right behind Frank now.
Ready, Frank?
Well, hello to you, Beth. Nice to see you. Can I buy you a drink?
Bar is closed, and I wouldn't want a drink from you anyway. Because you're a dirt bag.
Oh, jeez. Tell me how you really feel. Max takes a deep breath. So one day we'll be together, Beth. You'll see. Beth rolls her eyes and tugs at Frank's shirt. All right, man, I'm out of here. You sure you're good to drive? I'm fine. I'm drunker than you are, and it's your birthday. You sure? Max looks over to John and his eyes up the piñata for a shot. I'm fine. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Good. All right, buddy. Happy birthday. Frank looks over to John and shouts, "Hey, happy birthday, John." John beams at Frank with a large smile in juvenile tonality. "Ha! Thanks, Frank. Happy birthday to you too, Frank." Frank. Frank smiles and looks to Max. Max shakes his head and drinks his shot. They sound like they're all like clones of each other because they all sound exactly the same.
I think they're supposed to kind of have the same character, but I see what you mean.
Yeah.
It's like the same person talking. Maybe because it is you saying everybody's lines too.
Maybe, yeah. Interior, truck cab, night later. Max is driving and listening to the radio. John is passed out in the passenger seat holding the piñata. Max's eyes are starting to close as he begins to pass out too. The truck veers slightly. Oh no, it's getting intense. Max catches himself only to pass out again. A few seconds later, as soon as his eyes close, the truck veers again and hits a tree.
Oh God.
What?
The next line.
The brothers are thrown out of the truck. When it comes to rest, Max is unconscious and John is now awake, but crammed and seemingly struck on the dashboard. Max, wake up! Wake up, Max, wake up! Max is motionless. The radio is still on, but there is a faint, strange noise slowly building in tempo and volume. At first, John doesn't hear it as he struggles to get free. The noise of the errant radio signal grows now. Finally, John can hear it. The tempo and volume build. John stops struggling and is suddenly calmed by it. As John and the signal cinch, his mentally handicapped demeanor evaporates, and he becomes normal again. For the briefest of moments. Okay. Act 2. Exterior, truck car day. Max is still draped over the steering wheel from the accident the night before. His eyes open to the rising sunlight. POV, Max looks down to see his bloody hands against the steering wheel. As he is looking at his hands, the ring vanishes, then reappears and shifts in between. Max shakes his head in total confusion. He looks over at the passenger seat for John. No one is there. Max wipes his eyes. He checks his hand for the ring again. He finds it and nods to himself before exiting the truck. Exterior, truck accident site. Continuous. Max walks to the front of the access to assess the damage. Great. Yuck. Max looks around and finally sees John sitting near the road. He walks up to John and taps him on the head. John's eyes open and looks up to Max with true clarity. Hello, John. Max squints, startled at John's new demeanor. Hey buddy, how did you get out of the truck by yourself? John smiles coyly. I don't know. I just got out, I guess. You are ready to walk home now, John. I'd fix the car, but the radiator has a tree in it. Max steps back. John? John smiles and raises an eyebrow. Interior, Max's house, kitchen, later. John follows Max as he walks through the door first. As soon as Max sees Beth, he realizes that he's not in his house anymore, as he expected.
Open your eyes.
POV, Max twirls in confusion to reveal John swinging the door behind him. When Max turns again, Beth is laughing at his confusion. He turns again and sees Frank laughing at him. He turns again and reveals Sarah cackling at him. Turning again, he finally reveals John doing the same. He spins and spins to the heads of everyone laughing at him. Upon his final spin, John smashes a piñata in his face, which transitions into black. Where's the candy? Interior, Max's house, kitchen, continuous. Max wakes up to Sarah patting his cheeks to wake him up on the kitchen floor. Oh, I hope he means his face.
Wake up, babe.
Max sits up a bit and opens his eyes completely. Where am I? Where's the John? Sarah looks confused now.
You're in coma. It's time to choose.
What are you talking about? Max squints in total confusion. He shakes his head at Sarah and stands up now. But Beth, Frank and you. Max looks at his hand and sees the ring. POV. Max looks at his hands and the ring disappears in front of his eyes. Max is clueless and drives into a paranoia. He jogs around the house in a chaotic frenzy. He stops in the kitchen again with Sarah standing there in shock and awe.
What's going on?
Max's eyes are everywhere but Sarah. In the corner of the dining room, net to the kitchen, he sees the piñata. I've gotta go. Without any more explanation, Max jets to the front door. Max pushes it open to the flood of white light. Interior, John and Beth's house, later. White light gets shut out as John closes the door behind Max. John puts his hand on Max's shoulder. Hi, John, are you okay? Max turns around and pushes John's hands off his shoulder. Stop calling me John! John, it's your name. No, it's not. Calm down. Do you know where you are? Of course I know where I am. I'm... What year is this? It's, Max takes a step back and shakes his head at John. John looks at him with reassuring eyes. No, it's okay. Look, let me help you. Everything is going to be fine. I'll explain everything. Max is hesitant, but ultimately lets John calm him as they walk down the hallway. See, a while back there was an accident. What kind of accident? John smiles. You know, I almost envy being you. I remember the story about this shaman who went on a vision quest, and while he searched for answers to the world around him, he lost his sense of self. No name, no identity, no memory, nothing. He said that it was the most extreme side of life you've ever lived, because they were amid true darkness. He simply did not exist. He fell into an endless loop, that all he couldn't get out of it until he got to the bottom of the abyss. Yeah, everything's clear now. Oh, here it is, the rest. And it was only then that he found what he was looking for all along. He realized that he's been asking the wrong question. The real questions wasn't in the world around him. The real question was, who am I? Ha ha ha. John's face straightened slightly. Once he realized that, he was truly free. Max rolls his eyes at John. What are you talking about? I'm about to show you. John opens the door to a closet and throws some things about. He knocks around a leather satchel that reveals a small revolver that only Max notices when it hits the carpet. John keeps fishing for something and finally brings out the ring. Here. My ring. Why do you have this? It's my ring. I got it back in high school, remember? Max squints and leers at John. My ring? No, John. My ring. Here, look. John hands the ring to Max. Max sees that John's name is engraved on the inside band. He shakes his head as his eyes go wide with intensity. I know who I am. Right. Vacillating? I don't know what that means. but do you? John grabs the ring back from Max and holds onto it. Max grabs back the ring and it slips to the ground. They both drive at it. A slight struggle ensues. John gets the ring, and when they both stand up, the gun is missing from the satchel. Ask yourself this. How am I talking to you right now? I don't know. John leans up against the wall, catching his breath. John, you used to be kinda slow. You weren't always slow. It happened when we were kids. No, that was you. John nods, but continues his long story. Anyway, a while back, I got into a car accident. I was driving and you smashed into the windshield pretty hard and passed out. When you woke up, you were normal. Kinda like you are now. but you claimed you heard some sort of signal on the radio and it made you superhuman, and you said you could see the future and read minds and implant thoughts and dreams. Basically, you went a little crazy, and every once in a while you think you're me. Weird, huh? It's not a bad trade-off though, I guess, right? Max looks disgusted at the thought, then huffs. I'm not you. I would never want to be you. Max sneers at John and snatches the ring from his hand. John makes no effort to get it back from Max. He gleams as Max bolts out the front door into a wall of white light again. Exterior, baseball diamond, day. White light of sun evaporates as we tilt down to Max and John, who were both young and brotherly, okay? They toss the ball back and forth until a young Beth comes up from OS and approaches Max.
Hey, John.
The two smile at each other before Beth's eyes shift a bit and into fear. POV, Max turns to talking to Beth as his eyes divert ever so slightly, just in time to see Baseball crush his face, instant white light, and an echo-like ringing of the signal take over. Begin fading into black from an overhead shot of young Max with Beth kneeling over him.
Oh my god, John. John, can you hear me? Can you hear me, John?
Fade out. Interior hospital bed. Night. Fade into the overhead shot of Max with breathing tubes sticking out of his face. Can you hear me, John? Open your eyes. Okay. POV, Max opens his eyes. John waves his hand in front of Max's face. There's a ring on his hand. It disappears and reappears while John waves back and forth. I know this is hard, but it's the only way. You must choose. Why? POV, John goes OS. You can just say off screen. And rustles around a bit. I thought I brought you something that might help you this time. John then holds up the piñata. Max breathes heavily, seeing it, and the eyes start to flutter, rolling back into his head. Max sees a white light and the hospital bed cubby and develops him. The signal echoes. Act 3. Okay. Interior, dive bar, night. The bartender takes down half a happy birthday sign for John and Max. John sits at the bar with Frank hanging drunk off the end of it. Yeah, I know what you mean. I could have been swinging at fastballs in the majors, but instead I get to swing at my genius brother, watch my genius brother swing and miss an empty piñata forever. Max swings and misses the piñata over and over again. Frank looks over to Max and shouts, "Hey, happy birthday, John!" Max looks over to Frank with a huge smile and juvenile tonality. "Ha, thanks, Frank. Happy birthday to you too, Frank." Frank smiles and looks at John. John shakes his head and drinks his shot. "Later, man." John nods. Frank leaves. John looks at Max swatting at the piñata. He gets off the bar and fetches him. "Come on, genius. Let's go home." It's kind of mean calling him genius when he's kind of like on the spectrum.
No, I think a lot of especially people with ADHD and like that are on the spectrum are kind of geniuses in their own sort, but they're not able to translate it. You know how like some of them are musical geniuses and they have different things that are just like superhuman about them.
Right.
So it's probably a genius on some part.
Right.
That I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Like in A Beautiful Mind, where he's like this genius statistician. Interior truck cab, night, later. John is falling asleep at the wheel and turns in the radio, and it plays the same song as last time. Again, John nods off while driving. Max is asleep in the passenger seat. The truck veers. Crash. Ah! Exterior truck accident site. Both brothers are unconscious in their seats. John, wake up! John, wake up! Wake up, John! Ah! John is motionless. The radio is still on, and faintly the signal starts to build in intensity. Max stops struggling and listens to the signal now. Finally, there is no sound but the signal. Max twitches slightly, and his face crinkles. His eyes open wide as the signals become one. Max shakes his head. as if that's all it took to be normal again. He unbuckles himself from his seat and pulls himself away from the dashboard. The signal still pounds in his head. He exits the truck and looks at John unconscious in the driver's seat. John's arm dangles with the ring in his finger. No, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Max stares at the ring intently and then closes his eyes. I don't believe it. Max puts his hand on his face and covers his eyes. John and Beth's house, night. Max has his hand in his face. I don't believe it. Max's other hand is holding the gun that he took from the satchel earlier. The gun is pointed at John's head, with Beth sitting captive behind him. What don't you believe? Max takes his hand away from his face and sees what he's doing, and at first he is shocked, and then he quickly becomes relieved. He exhales deeply. Myself. Ugh. A tear runs down Max's cheek. I don't believe in myself. Not with you here. I never have. I hate you. Always. Max juts the gun further into John's forehead. John smiles. Ah, you can see it through my eyes now. Can you escape the loop inside your head? I never meant to hurt you. John looks up to Max with absolute clarity. Max loses another tear. I know that. Deep breath. You're in a coma. It's time to choose, whatever that means. Max reels slightly at this. What did you say? Max lets the gun drop to his side in confusion and fear. Open your eyes. John stands up. Who are you? Ah, but that's not the question, though. The question is always the same. It's the same one you've failed to answer your whole life. The question is, who am I? John drops another tear and shakes his head. I see everything. John curls a lip and squints. Then why does it matter? I mean, do you really believe any of this? Max shakes his head. No. Then why does it matter? John vacillates and then finally brings the gun back up to John's face as a tear falls. It doesn't. It only matters that there's one of us. Max takes a deep breath. POV. Max breathes deeply as he pulls the gun away from John's head and points it at his own. White light. The signal echoes. John stands with Sarah and Frank at the foot of Max's bed. A doctor is opposite them on the other side. Max's eyes are closed as he sleeps. The doctor shifts something near Max's monitors.
Will he ever wake up?
We just don't know. It's kind of up to him. He just needs to open his eyes. He needs to choose to wake up. That's how comas work. The doctor exits. Sarah pulls the Frank shirts. They start to follow the doctor out.
John, we'll be outside whenever you're done.
Sarah and Frank leave. John reaches into his pocket and cups something. John places the ring into Max's finger. Let's try again. As John places the ring on Max's finger, it reads Max's name and not John's. POV, Max opens his eyes to reveal John walking out the door. John smiles and gives Max a little wink. Max starts to breathe heavily with his eyes flutter. He focuses on the white light of the cubby again as it envelops everything. The signal starts to pound in, quickly gaining in intensity and volume. Total white light as the signal takes over. Credits over white background. The end. Alright. What's that face?
What? I'm so confused.
I'm very confused as well. I don't get what this guy was trying to say, like, at all.
I thought I was understanding it until it ended. And I was just like, wait, so John is the doctor and he just has been fighting a demon in his head? That he had to choose? Was there ever a John? Like, I'm so confused. And then he wakes up at the end.
But then he goes...
Or did he really?
I don't know. Like, he just goes back into a coma, I guess, and does the cycle again, I suppose.
Yeah, that ending definitely, like, could have tied everything in a knot, but it didn't. It just made it more confusing. I thought it was building up to something. It actually had me all intrigued.
Really?
And the end just, yeah.
So, like, you thought it was, like, really good up to the point of to the ending where it just kind of, like, falls apart?
I wouldn't say it was really good, but it definitely, like, had a plot of just trying to understand what was going on, right? Like,
Right.
the whole time I was just like, okay, there must be a reason all of this is happening. There must be a reason why we're going through all of this confusion, because it's all going to come together at the end and tie to be a cute little bow of a story of what really happened.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they just made us more confused at the
Yeah.
end.
Like, one of the things that
Yeah.
you shouldn't do in screenwriting is be not clear. You gotta be clear when you're writing a script. And I don't think this was very clear.
And
Like,
even if you're going to be unclear, like, find a way to make it all make sense at some point why it was unclear, you know?
mm-hmm.
Because the audience here, they're just like, okay, he's going through this, and now he's John, and now he's Max again, and then Max is okay, and John is not okay, and everybody's laughing, and you're just like, what the fuck is going on? But, I'm sorry, but at the end, you thought it was going to come to something. I'm just confused. Maybe I have to read that ending again
Yeah.
to kind of see what I'm going for, but yeah, it was intriguing, interesting, grabbed the attention in for the audience just to not have a payout at the end. You know, you don't want to piss the audience off.
Oh, yeah. When you're doing something like this, it makes the audience feel really dumb when it ends like that.
Yeah.
Especially when you're doing this whole, like, oh, it's in his head type thing.
Yeah.
And what is this thing about him choosing? What is this choice that he keeps on saying?
Maybe it's like he's in the coma, and the only reason he's still in the coma is because, like, the doctors are probably like, everything is fine with him now. You know, now he just has to, like, choose to wake up because everything physically seems to be fine at this point.
I don't think that's how comas work.
I mean, comas don't work that way,
Yeah.
but, you know, movies work that way.
Yeah, I know. Oh, you're depressed? Why don't you just be happy?
You know, but there are conditions where, like, doctors cannot figure out what is going on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the person says something is wrong, and they're just like, physically, there's a movie about this, I think, with what's her name, the actress, where she keeps telling people, like, something is wrong, and they're just like, physically, and all the scans we've done, like, nothing shows that there's anything wrong with you. So, like, don't know why you're still, like, feeling this type of way.
That sounds really interesting.
They're probably just like, he just needs to make a choice to wake up.
Yeah. And so I think what this guy, what message do you think this guy is trying to say?
I'd like to think it's something about, like, the whole fact that they're twins, and then one is, like, the better twin, and the other one is always living in the shadow, and, you know, never got to, like, have the years of, like, all the goodness that the guy had, all the opportunities, and he still, like, has a good life. And then this guy who is going at a piñata for hours, not being able to hit it, always having that resentment towards your other half, I guess, and just trying to accept it and learn to love it and be okay, you know. And I think that was the whole point of the story, was just like, you gotta choose. Like, you see how I felt, you know. He was just like, you were always kind of slow, and he was like, no, that was you. And he's like, I never wanted you to be alive, you know. And he was like, now you understand how I feel.
Right.
So it was like just seeing another person's perspective. I would think it would, like, come together to being like, oh, now I know what his world is like. Like, now I'm gonna be a better brother or whatever, you know. But no, that's not how it turned out. So I'm confused as to what the writer was trying to give away.
I thought like what I thought was happening was this guy who was going to be like the next baseball, like the next friggin' I don't know Babe Ruth. Yeah, and but instead he has to take care of his brother, who is has a mental disability, and he blames his brother for not letting him having a successful life as a baseball player. And then he goes through this whole rigmarole, and then he's like, "I finally understand what you go through," or something, or whatever.
Huh. Yeah. That's another take to it too. Because
Mm-hmm.
I was just thinking from John's perspective, but I see how Max would feel the same way.
Mm-hmm. So, like, do we really need the characters of Frank, Beth, and Sarah?
Not really, no. I
Yeah,
think this could have easily been done uh, with just the two characters.
yeah, me too. I think Beth, Sarah, and Frank are just there for no reason. I have no idea why they're there. And
Yeah.
and I saw that you were a little bit like like got had like a little bit of a reaction when you saw that they got into like that car crash.
Yeah. I didn't know what genre we were reading, So I was just, what's happening? Were they about to die? Because whenever we read this, I picture it in my head. So
Yeah.
the next line was like, they crash and then the brother gets flung out. So I'm thinking he's in the back seat or front seat and he just like smashes the windshield and just goes to the tree and smashes his head or something. I just had a really gruesome head, like picture in my head.
Oh,
So you saw
snap.
that reaction.
Yeah. So like, and then all of a sudden they start talking about this whole superpower thing. What was up with
Yeah.
that?
I don't know why that was necessary.
I don't know
Like,
why.
if it was just the fantasy world of like whatever was happening, I think adding the whole superpower, superhuman thing where he's like, oh, you got powers that made you have telepathy and you could put like thoughts in people's minds. Then you really start questioning, like, oh, was it John doing this the whole time who has made Max believe that he's John now and the whole world believe that? That's where I thought it was heading, but no, that's not where it headed at all.
Yeah, I know. And is that like a good thing or a bad thing? Would you say that it like subverted your expectations?
Really cool to kind of see like somebody who is, people on the spectrum, they're not treated with all the respect in the world from the world. So
Uh-huh.
they take on this character once they get the superpower of being like, I'm gonna be the person that the world loves, and my brother, he can take my role at this point. So he kind of turns into that villainous character,
Mm-hmm.
which I think would have been really interesting to play around with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know that because like I'm on the spectrum too.
Really, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, I am. Um, like also another thing is this whole like the script formatting is kind of not right, but that's like a whole another thing. Like yeah, like
Can you break as to why it's not right?
yeah, like first is the acts. I don't know why there are acts. The only reason why people have acts is because you're either writing like a stage book or you're writing a teleplay, and the acts are supposed to break into the commercial breaks.
Oh yeah, acts.
Yeah, but I don't think this is supposed to be for a television show.
And I don't think it really even broke down into acts, because the way he had it was act 1, 2, and 3. That usually means beginning, middle, end.
Right.
And they have a shift in tone,
Mm-hmm.
and something has considerably happened for it to break into a different act.
Right.
But none of the scenes really built up to anything that there was anything necessary to break into another act. If anything, it would be like the next scene.
Right.
Uh,
Pretty much.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was unnecessary.
Right. And also, if you're writing a teleplay, the proper way to do it is say like after the end of an act, you write end of act 1, and then you start a new page break, and then act 2, and then you start. And another thing is the constant POV shots that are listed in there.
Yeah.
I wouldn't like. You're not supposed to do that when you're making like a spec script. I mean, you could if you're doing a production script and you're the director, but if you're just the writer, you shouldn't be doing that because you're basically telling the cinematographer how to. Yeah.
What makes you think he's not the director?
I don't know, man. I don't know. You're right, man. Like, also another thing is a lot of directing on the page that I saw. Like a lot of, oh, he turns here. Oh, he turns there. Oh, snap. He looks like, whoa. You know, like stuff like that.
And I've seen writers do that too, like to a point where they're specific enough to saying like a tear falls out of the left eye as she says this word.
Yeah.
And I have had directors tell me like do that exact thing.
Mm-hmm.
It says.
Right.
That's to that specification. It's at that point you might as well be directing the whole thing. You know?
Exactly, yeah. Because, like, what if, like, I get a script that says, like, do it on the left eye, but what if I, as the director, say, oh, I don't want it to do it on the left eye, I'm going to do it on the right eye, or just have no tears at all. And that's, like, where screenwriting kind of gets really, tricky of learning when to, like, back off in the descriptions of what's happening in the scene.
Exactly, because there's a lot of liberty taken for interpretation whenever it goes on to another person to take on the project, which is why whenever people take the rights to do plays, they actually have like specifications of what you need to abide by as far as the playwright had put in place. So I think some of Samuel Beckett's work, like you have to be very specific with the direction he has given, the stage direction he has given, because he written it with everything in mind as to how specific he wanted things to be, right? So whenever people do that play, they don't get a lot of liberty to just like do what they want and, you know, kind of take their own twist on it. And then for most part, the other plays, you know, you take a play and then Romeo and Juliet has been done like 700 different ways. And that's where you kind of get to see like people really make something different out of something that was traditionally done.
Right.
But when you're a writer, I can see the need to be like, this is exactly how I want it because that's how I picture it. But I think that's like also negating the other parts of making your vision come to life because there's so many other people that come in to that play.
Yeah.
Kind of like being a dictator, just, is that the word?
Addicted?
Dictate? You know the word that I'm saying.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, just like putting your gavel and being like, this is the way it's done.
Right.
This is how you guys are going to do it.
Yeah. So, like, as an actor yourself, do you prefer to be, like, overly directed, or do you like having, like, that creative room to, like, do your own spin on the character?
I think with anything that you're making creatively, like, it has to be a collaboration, right? It's of course, film is a director's medium, but at the end of the day, you were hired as an actor because the director trusts you to do your job. And you just want to come in and be able to do your job, come in with intentions and like choices made already. And, you know, if it doesn't match the vision of what the director is thinking, they can always redirect you. But as far as I have known in the industry, directors don't really want actors that they need to direct because they're worried about 20 other things, right? So they direct well by casting well. And, you know, hopefully at a point, if you've made like different choices from what the director said, which hopefully is not the case because you have talked to the director beforehand of where what story they're trying to tell. But there is a case where the director's like, I like that, but like, try it this way, be able to be open, because that's the fun part. That's like the fun part when you kind of get to play, because you do your take, and then when they say, let's do this take for just shits and giggles, that's like, okay, now I get to have fun. We did the way that we had planned, and then now we just get to collaborate and see like what comes along. But depending on budgets of the movie, you don't know how long you have to do any of those things.
Yeah, I know. Like, I know
usually it's like on to the next.
Right. Like, I know sometimes directors will do that if like the first AD says like, oh, we have time to do like another shot, and then he'll be like, yeah, let's just do whatever. Like in the old days, back when they still had film, they would be like, oh, we still have a couple rolls of film, why don't I just let it roll on you and you can just do whatever. And so me personally, I like backing off and let the actor act. That's what I like to do.
Yeah.
And like just like have like minimalistic direction, unless like there's like a certain way I would like for the scene to play out. Like with the last film that we were in, the 9/11 one, like I gave you like pretty minimalistic direction because I knew that you knew what to do already. So like I trusted in you, and you did a pretty good job.
Why, thank you. Yeah. I mean, that I feel like that's kind of the norm at this point, that directors, you cast well, and you trust, you're not going to get an actor that you are going to hold their hand throughout the whole scene, because they're just like you're doing your job as a director. Like, that's why you hired the actor.
Right.
But I think it also comes with like not being a needy actor, because once we're starting out, like I definitely used to be the actor who like was like, hey, am I doing a good job? Like, do you want anything different?
Yeah.
But the director doesn't have time for all of that to like stroke your ego, So I think the longer you keep doing this as an actor, you just realize that you have to have a sense of what you're doing, because you're not going to always have a director who's going to give you notes.
Right.
Who's going to give you different takes or like different what he's thinking. That's a conversation you need to have beforehand and make the choices and come in there to do the work.
Yeah, that's what rehearsals are for.
Yeah.
Like, that's what rehearsals are for.
Yeah.
Like, I remember, like my, the professor who does directing, I never was taught under him in my graduate school, because he taught the undergraduate classes, but he came in one of our classes as like a guest speaker, and he talked about his methods, and he told us that, as after he casted, the first rehearsal that he does was that all the actors needs to be off book. Like the first rehearsal, and the first rehearsal, because he says, I know you know how to read lines, so let's just skip that part and just do it. So that was his mentality. And he does this method that I personally don't agree with, because I kind of think it's kind of abusive in a way. It's where you kind of like play mind games with your actors in order to get like a quote-unquote genuine performance. You know what I'm talking about?
No, I know what you're talking about. I definitely don't think it's necessary.
Yeah.
But I've seen it actually be done on set before, and it get like beautiful results. I don't think it's like method acting, right? You don't have to make everybody's life exponentially harder because you want to lock yourself up and be a dick to everybody because you're playing this character.
Right.
You can just be a professional and be a normal human being, and then when they say action, you get into that character. But if it gets the job done,
so you say you say that the ends justify the means.
Kind of gray area where I'm just like, how much hurt is it doing? Like, if the actor is able to just like be fine with it after knowing that it was just part of the whole thing, if it's not like affecting their psyche like years later on.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I don't know. I feel like kind of that's a gray space of just knowing how different people work, you know?
Yeah.
There are actors I've worked with that like don't run lines at all and like don't want to do any rehearsals, and they're like, I want to be surprised. And I'm like, yeah, but I still gotta know like where you're gonna be as far as like camera and everything.
Yeah. Like blocking?
And, you know, everybody works differently. So I think it's just kind of the fun of figuring that out. But I see what you're saying, because it is kind of abusive.
Yeah. Like he told me this. He told me a couple stories about how he did this a couple of times. He told us a couple of stories about how he did it. And he told me once that he was doing told us, the class, that he was doing this film about this dad who was suffering from dementia and his relationship with his daughter. And one of the scenes, he has to be like kind of like upset and kind of push her away. So in one of the scenes, like after he in between shots, he told the actor who was playing the grandfather, he came up to him and he said, "You stink. You're garbage," or something along those lines. And then he went back and he was like, "Okay, next. Okay, let's start shooting." And then he wanted him to be like, because he wanted him to be mad, so he just said he was bad. So in the next scene, the actor was genuinely mad, so he kind of like pushed his like scene partner a little bit too hard, a bit too aggressively, and then the director was like, "I love it. We're rolling with it." And then there
should be no real pushing whenever people are doing any kind of action that's close to stunt work that could get anybody hurt, because that is definitely something that needs to be like talked with like stunt director.
Right.
So because that could have definitely ended bad. Like, she could have gotten hurt.
Yeah. I say push, but it was more like a hand swatting.
Well.
So.
Yeah, I remember one of the scenes that I did. The actress, like, she like hit me on my head, right? Mm-hmm. And she was like really in character. And the second time she did it, like, ow, that shit really hurt. I was just like, maybe not do it that hard the next time. Like, I know you're in character, but that also hurts. Like, I can just like give a little thump, you know?
Yeah.
But I think it's so tricky, because when, as actors, you're like really getting in the place and you're really there, like if you're really angry and you get in somebody's face, like you actually could hurt somebody.
Right.
You know?
So after that shot happened, the scene partner, the person who was playing the daughter, came up to the director and she said, "That really hurt my feelings. I'm sad now." Man. And then he's like, "Good. I'm glad it did." I don't know if he said that.
See, I was talking to my friend about this yesterday, about how directors are in charge. They are in charge of setting the tone for everybody on set. Mm-hmm. You're a leader there on set, you know? And the part of having leadership skills is like treating people as human beings. At the end of the day, actors are human beings. People working for you on set are human beings, you know? And if you're not taking care of them, you don't want to be a director. All the set and crew are like talking about you behind your back. And you, especially when you're a dick of a director, like, people don't want to go the extra mile for you.
Right.
They're just there to catch a check. Yeah. You know, like, there are people that, even if you're not getting the rate that you wanted, that you usually charge for, if you're getting a lesser rate or you're having to give in more time, whatever it is, if the director is actually somebody that you genuinely care about the story that they're telling and who they are as human beings and how they make you feel on set, like, you would want to work harder for these directors. Right. You know, you wouldn't mind staying extra 2 hours if that's what was needed to get the shot, because you're there. But when you have dick of directors who are just like, you're a terrible actor, or just like having temper tantrums
Mm-hmm.
on set. It kind of you don't feel like you could give as much, like, even though for every project you want to be able to give all of yourself
Right.
into a role, being in production, being a PA or whatever you're doing. You want to work for people you like.
Mm-hmm.
you know
Exactly. Yeah.
just especially being a director, like, you have to be the person who's like really setting the tone, and a lot of I just realized a lot of directors don't get that.
Right. Do you think I get that? I hope I do.
I mean, I had a good time on your set.
Oh, great. Well,
I
that's
was
good to
only
hear.
there for like one day for like a couple of hours, but
Yeah.
you seem to have a good rapport built.
Awesome. Thank you. So, like, another story that he told me was that he was doing this short film with these two guys who were just talking, like doing like this interrogation scene. And he
Mhm.
told one of the actors who was being interrogated, he said, "Hey, the guy who's playing your scene partner, who's playing the interrogator, just don't talk to him. Be like super Iceman cold to him." And he's like, "But I don't want to. I'm a nice guy." And he's like, "Do it for the scene." And he's like, "Okay." And so, and he said that afterwards, that the actor who was the person who was being interrogated, the actor, was in the bathroom, and his scene partner came in. He was like, "Hey, how are you doing today?" And so his response was, "I'm doing fine," and he just leaves. And then it kind of made his scene partner really unsettled. And then
Mhm.
then they came back on the set and they went through the scene, and that's how he did it. Um, I don't know if I 100% agree with that method, but I don't know. What do you think?
I think there's also, like, when you have taken on a project, you will get, as actors, you will get directions from directors that make no sense at all.
Yeah.
like, like, I have gotten notes that completely contradict who my character is.
Really?
So if I'm playing a girl and then they say, "Oh, just be cold," like that, like he had gotten, and I'm like, but it doesn't, make sense for my character, like, in my head. And he's like, "Just forget about that for this scene. Just do this." And you have to just trust that the director knows what they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just like you were brought here with the intention of you knowing what you're doing, and you may not understand where the director is coming from and why they gave you that note, because sometimes I know, like, as actors, we think we're like doing something and it may not be reading that way on screen, or the director sees this scene kind of alluding to something else
Mm-hmm.
than what is actually going on. So they might be editing it. They're also like part of the post-production, so they already know what they're going for. So I think when you just get those notes, like, when you're there on set, just be ready to play. So whatever they throw at you, even if it's like something completely different, of course, if you need context to it, ask about it, why. But if you don't, like, there was, when I got a note that didn't make sense, I asked why, and when he gave me a reasoning, it still didn't make sense to me. But I was just like, you know what? They already have a take of me doing it the way I had it envisioned. I'm going to do it this way because you're here to make the director's vision come to life.
Right.
So don't question it so you can understand it, but give them what they need, because at the end of the day, like, when they put it together, the directors are not going to make you look bad. They do not want to make you look bad on screen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the cinematographer, the editor, they're going to find the best pieces to make the pieces come together. Although there are times when I'm just like, why didn't they use that take? Because that was my best take, but maybe it didn't match the scene. Maybe it didn't match the tone. Maybe it was too much for the other actor, or maybe it was too little for where the other actor was. There's just so many things that go into it that I think, like, when directors give you notes that just don't make sense, ask first, but always, like, just be open to just play and give them what they want, because at the end of the day, you were hired to make the director's vision come to life.
Right. So like whenever you're doing like auditions and directors like tell or casting directors or maybe it's directors there too tell you to do it like in a certain like a different way after like the cold reading. What is like the weirdest one like the weirdest adjustment that you had to do?
Weirdest?
Yeah.
Gosh, I've had so many auditions at this point. We had this, oh God, this movie that was supposed to be made, and the audition process was really weird in itself because it was like killer, thriller, like gore kind of movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one of my fellow actresses, she was there too, and she went first because he was just like, this is going to be completely different from what you've done in other auditions. And he was just like, we're really going to do the scene. The director was also playing the main lead role.
Oh, okay. He's one of those guys.
Him. So I was like, I don't know what this is. I'll let somebody else go first. And then she went first. And oh my God, like she did an amazing job. Like it was supposed to be like a killing scene and like he's threatening her. She like finds herself tied up and he's like berating her. But it just felt like really abusive, like somebody who just was like, let me just get a bunch of girls and see how far I can push it. And at the end of the scene, he took a pie and completely pied her in the face as she's tied.
Wait, they tied her to they tied her in the audition?
In the audition, and people are watching. Like, this is not a closed audition. It's like a stage, and the other people that are auditioning are watching in the audience.
I don't know, why would you do... Is this for a theater? Like a stage?
No, this was for a film that never got made. She got cast.
I can't imagine why. Yeah?
Because she did an amazing job. She, like, got to crying because it was, like, too real at that point, you know? Mm-hmm. She was crying. He, like, pied her in the face. I think she got, like, a bunch of, like, liquid on her, water or something that he, like, splashed on her. And I was just like, I'm not auditioning for that role. I'll audition for the small one, like, one longer. And, yeah, we both booked it. They had, like, a bunch of we did the table read, we like signed contracts. It's on our IMDb page that I've been trying to get off for a while because we never shot it. Yeah, it's just there.
Good luck trying to remove things from IMDb. I've tried.
It's impossible. I have 3 projects there that I'm not in, and I keep like trying to get it off, and this is a nightmare.
I know. Like I have like 3 short films that I made back in high school that I'm like, they don't need to be there, and I've been trying to get them, but they just won't do anything. So okay, so what happened after that? What was your experience after that? Why didn't it get made?
I don't know. And he said there was some complications with. He was, like, working on his own, like, personal stuff, I guess. I'm not sure what the case was, but I will say, going back to the question of what is the weirdest, like, adjustment that I've gotten in an audition, I wouldn't say it's the weirdest thing, but, like, commercial auditions.
Right.
They really, like, as much I love auditioning, I love, like, anything where I get to play on a role, but commercials are just so much, like, smile, and now you're mad, or you're auditioning, literally text somebody and then think, like, that will be the audition,
right?
You know? And what can you do with that? You know, it's like 2 seconds of an action, and usually the notes that you get are like, yeah, but do that more ethnic.
What does that mean?
What the fuck does that even mean? You know, or like they'll be like I look Indian, so I go for roles that are for Indian roles, and they'll be like, yeah, but do that more Indian. And I'm like, you mean you just want like a thicker accent or like mannerisms? What do you mean? And they're just like, you know what I mean, you know? And it's just, it's really heartbreaking to get notes like that.
Yeah.
Or when they're just like, oh, happier, you know? What looks happier on one person could look completely different on somebody else. Like if you say angrier, somebody might just start screaming, somebody might just start crying, you know?
Right.
So those notes really don't help, but it's those commercial notes that you get are like the most ridiculous notes that you'll get.
Yeah, I
Or
know.
like notes that really don't do much, you know?
Yeah, have you ever gotten like a note that's like, oh, try to be more sensual but more innocent? You know what I mean? That
Yes! Yes! Oh my god! All the time! All the time! Because I think they try to like get a balance when they're trying to say that, but they'll say opposing things.
right.
Like be innocent and sensual at the same time. Yeah, there is a way of playing that, but like when you don't give context to why you're giving the note, I think it leaves uh well, if you're a well-seasoned actor, you're able to take any note and do wonders with it, you know?
Yeah.
If they just do it, say it, do it more ethnic, you know exactly what they're saying. But I think it's just it is a little tricky
Yeah.
where I'm at right now, you know, of not being able to grasp exactly and like wanting to ask more questions, which is not bad at all. It should be a collaboration because when you're meeting for an audition, like in our class that we go to, they say don't even call it an audition. It's a meeting to see how you both would work well together, you know, because audition is just like, oh, let me show you why you should pick me, when it really is something that you're going to be working on together. So if you're not able to ask questions when you get ridiculous notes or like notes that you don't get or seem ridiculous to you, but if you just trust the director and just like have a conversation like two artists who are trying to collaborate, I think it makes for a healthier like relationship, working relationship. But I'm trying to get to a point where I don't have to ask as many questions.
Okay.
Because sometimes that I've definitely lost jobs because they were just like, gosh, you know, maybe I just asked too many questions or it didn't seem like I knew what I was doing. But, you know, I guess it's just like finding a balance.
Yeah. So like, yeah, I don't know, but like with these A-list actors, like when you're doing with like Johnny Depp or Robert Downey Jr., who think the world, like the sun rises and sets with them, it can sometimes be a bit difficult because they think the world revolves around them.
Well, some of the movies that I have heard stories of, it seems like the bigger the actor you are, the more of a say you have on your characters anyway, because at that point, like, you can even veto the director because people are coming to watch you, you know?
Yeah.
Because you're the name. So I've heard stories of, like, why even have the director there? It seems like the actor is directing the entire scene.
Yeah. I know that's what happened with, I know Tom Cruise does that, and I know Denzel Washington does that.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah. All right, so yeah, our time's almost up. So The Signal, good, bad? Would you purchase it to produce it?
Um, this was the first script that we read together when I was just like, if it doesn't excite me personally, like it seems like a good script to start. They would have to change the ending, you know, and kind of flesh a lot of things out. If it's even supposed to be a short or what is it, there would have to be a pitch related to it to even consider it. But just from reading it so far, it's not something that like excites me personally, like isn't my interest.
Right.
So that would be a no for me.
Yeah, it would be a no for me too, mainly because of the crashing of the truck. Like I cannot produce that like at all. That sounds very expensive.
Oh yeah. I was not even thinking of that aspect. No.
Yeah, like it sounds really expensive. Like that truck alone, and also
And you got to do it a couple of times.
yeah, and also a lot of it just didn't make sense in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
I would probably say maybe if you go back, rewrite it, and then come back to me. Um,
So pretty much saying yes if you just change the whole thing. Yeah.
yeah, page one rewrite. So, yeah, do you think this guy is justified by saying that he's the best writer ever?
No, not at all. No.
Oh, see, you hear that? You just got told.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you're gonna come with as much cockiness, you better have the writing to back it up,
Yeah.
and it didn't.
Oh,
It didn't.
snap.
I mean, yeah. Even when you were saying like the characters all kind of sound the same, yeah. That is a thing, and if you're a good writer, you're supposed to be able to tap into personalities of like 70-year-old white man to a 6-year-old little black girl to a 20-year-old bisexual, like, traumatized kid. Like, they all sound different.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
really,
Yeah, and in this one, like Frank and Max sound a lot the same. John, I guess there wasn't a lot of defining action with him. All we know is that he's like mentally disabled, mainly because the scene direction told us, and
Yeah.
I guess the way he did it visually was just him. It was supposed to be him hitting a pinata at a bar. I don't know what bar have pinatas, but
I think the only line that actually made him seem disabled was he was like, "Oh, thank you, Max. Happy birthday to you too, Max." You know?
oh yeah, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I guess also because the pinata was empty.
Huh?
Like the pinata was empty.
Yeah.
He was hitting
So
an empty
why have
pinata.
pinata there?
Yeah. And why would you do that? That seems kind of mean.
The pinata they brought just to like keep him occupied while they're in the bar.
Probably.
But I don't know what bar would let somebody just hang up a pinata and go at it with a bat when there are people around.
Yeah, and plus, like, a bat is considered a weapon, and you don't want a weapon around a bunch of drunk people.
That's just a bad idea.
Yeah, that's a bad idea. And so, yeah, like, stuff like that, like, you gotta, like, polish it up a bit. And, like...
A little bit.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, well, it's a no from me, dog. And it's a no from my friend. So yeah, if you're gonna come at us with that, dude, you gotta put your money where your mouth is.
You heard it right here.
Yeah, and also another thing, this was not a PDF. This was just a giant long JPEG image file.
This was a JPEG?
Yeah, this was all a JPEG. Yeah, it was all a JPEG. So yeah, like stuff like that. If you send me a script that's a JPEG, that's like straight to my trash bin.
Yeah, straight to trash, yeah.
All right, so I've been Nathaniel Avila, and I was with...
Sahara.
Yep, and we'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Sahara.
Bye.